guys are. I don't know if anybody else is, but if you don't, it's probably coming, right? We're going to have to interact with our citizens the way that they interact with, you know, the Ubers of the world or Twitters of the world. So that presents a very interesting challenge because there's a very low skill gap when it comes to application development, right? Secure application coding, going back to the coding, and then the challenges with regard to testing the coding, testing the applications for vulnerabilities, and then specific protections around, you know, application, like web application firewalls and things of that nature. A complete new challenge for a lot of people that haven't done custom app development before. I think that all the new exciting tools are a challenge. So there's so much stuff out there. There's like 400 different security vendors out there. And I don't know how much time you guys spend talking to them, but they all talk to me because they want me to carry their products. So I get the sales pitches just like you guys do. And you know, there's all these new threats out there, and then you get to see all these new products, and all these products, they look great. Like every single one of them does something really well. They demo really well. They can show you how they can block and attack, but it can be very, very confusing when you have so many different technology solutions that are coming your way that all look very valuable in their own right. Like next generation firewall was really popular, and sandboxing, like, you know, FireEye kind of took the market by a storm, and sandbox was the next big thing. You know, well now it's like next-gen endpoint. I don't know how many of you guys are doing anything next-gen endpoint, but there's new endpoint protection companies coming into the market every day. So just, I mean, we have a really strong partnership with Cisco and with Palo Alto Networks. Neither one of those companies had an endpoint solution, you know, a year and a half ago, and now you got Palo Alto has the Trap solution, and Cisco's got, you know, AMP for endpoints and OpenDNS. Right? You've got your traditional endpoint technologies. How does this all fit? What mix do I need, you know, to be effective? It can be very confusing. You know, has anybody heard the term CASB before? So this is what Gartner says is the hottest ticket item in security from a hardware-software perspective. It stands for Cloud Access Security Broker. So Gartner says 5% of organizations own a CASB solution, 85% will own one by 2020, and that's because, you know, as people move to cloud and SaaS applications, they need ways to secure and broker that access from their end users. So when that happens, like again, Cisco just bought a company called CloudLock, and Palo Alto got in that business with Aperture, and Symantec just, I mean, so there's a lot of activity. Again, one of the main things I'm going to focus on: no people, no time. Largest skill gap I've ever seen. So I've been doing this since 1999. When I was a young buck in Atlanta, Georgia, working for IBM. So I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but there's just a lack of skill, lack of people out there to hire, and just keeping up with everything from a security perspective, very difficult. Also, I think we're playing catch up. Like what, you know, I really started focusing on security about 4 years ago, and just even then, even 4 years ago, when you would go meet with security people, a lot of times you talk to the security side of the house, and they would have these ideas and things that they wanted to do, but they had very little budget. First of all, they didn't have budgets. If they wanted any budget, they'd have to get it from the infrastructure guys or the network guys. And a lot of times communication wasn't very good. So when security was trying to, you know, tell the infrastructure teams or the network teams what they wanted or needed done, they would just kind of be like, all right, you know, cool story, bro, but, you know, go back to your room, right? So all that changed. So that's completely changed now, at least what I've seen. I don't know if you see that in your organization, but it really was kind of the target breach that kind of got everybody's attention. And now all of a sudden, you know, security has all this attention and focus, and everybody wants to invest in it, and everybody wants to improve. But, you know, we're playing catch up because we really didn't pay attention to this thing like we should have for many, many years, and now it's the most important thing in many of our lives. The other thing is organizational process needs improvement. Again, kind of what I'm talking about. I see very little in a lot of shops I work in, and I don't know how you guys are, but application teams, you know, database teams, network teams, infrastructure teams, security teams, compliance teams, and there's very little positive communication between these groups. A lot of times one doesn't know what the other is doing. You work with the infrastructure team to build some type of infrastructure. Security guys find out about it at the last minute. They want to start applying all these security controls. You know, it's not really good for anybody. And probably where we failed the most is communicating from a security perspective with the business, right? Or in your case with, well, I mean, running a government is a business, obviously. So, so talking about some solutions to these problems. So I'll just ask this question. How many in here, your organization has adopted a security framework? Not regulatory compliance, but a security framework. An example of that could be like NIST or ISO 27001 or GOV. Has anybody done that? SANS top, or they don't call it SANS anymore. Critical security controls, top 20 critical security controls. So that's one thing, so nobody raised their hand. Maybe I'll put y'all to sleep already, I don't know. But that's one thing that I definitely recommend is to have some type of framework. What I see a lot of people do is they go out and okay, we got to be HIPAA compliant because we got the health department here, or we got to be PCI compliant because we're taking tax bills, things of that nature, and follow regulatory compliance. You need to be compliant. I understand that, but pick a security framework that's just, it's a governance, risk, and compliance overlay that kind of spells out how you're going to run your security program. Now, to that point, I'll say pick the appropriate framework, because here's what I see a lot of customers do. I see a lot of customers say, well, we want to go for NIST. Well, NIST is what, like federal government, DOD, right? And it's very, very complex and it's very difficult. It has a lot of policies. It's very rigid. So if you don't, nobody here raised their hand, so obviously nobody's doing that. But if you don't have to do NIST, don't shoot for the stars with this stuff. Keep it simple if you need something. If you need to. One of the things, I'll scroll through this. I probably wasn't even going to talk about this, but if you haven't ever looked at the top 20 critical security controls, use that. Just Google it. It used to be called the SANS Top 20. I don't know what they call it now. You're familiar with it, aren't you? Yeah. So, just use that. But use something that you have a framework and involve the business and communicate with the business. So the other thing that we have to do, right, is, if we've got limited staff and limited ability to do all this, is one of the jokes I tell over and over again in security is never buy a $20 fence for a $5 horse. So, understanding what data or what assets are important, to the city, county, school, and what risks are associated with them, who does that today? In 99% of the environments that I talk to, who makes that decision is the IT guys. So Gary's making that decision about what's important because he knows, he cares, right? But that's really not your job. That's really not your job. The job would be, to communicate with all the areas of the county and talk to them and say, hey, what is important to you? Where do you have risk? Where do you have business risk? Where do you have, compliance risk? Where do you have, citizen data that needs to be, make sure that you're involving them, because we can't protect everything. If we protect everything the way that we would like PCI data or things of that nature, if that's important, that's going to, number one, increase our cost. Number two, that's going to increase our complexity. And complexity requires more people, which is what we don't have.
So I understand, I agree with it. The challenge is, you said the majority of your income educated people on how to figure out what's important. Before you even have a conversation, just say what is important.
Right.
What's your strategy for that standpoint? In other words, some of our issues, we only know when the horse is working.
Right.
So how do you know what's important? How do you start this conversation?
Well, this is kind of a sales pitch, but that's one of the things that our consultants do. Our consultants have something called, business criticality workshops, where they go in and they bring people in and they kind of educate them on how, that's just what they call them. They call them business criticality workshops. The first thing to identify is what you're looking for, and obviously the second problem is find out where it is all the time. But, you get them in a room, and, I ask questions. I do, when I have meetings with customers, I'll ask them all the time. I'm like, okay, well, obviously you got regulatory compliance data. If you got patient information, credit cards, things of that nature, right? PII, PHI, credit cards. Okay, what about application code? Is your application code sensitive to you? Obviously HR data is, probably finance data. You guys, right, if you make over a certain amount of money, they put your salary in the paper, right? But, for other people, it might be sensitive data. So, what all is, you got to work through them kind of through a workshop way to get there. Don't forget the basics is the next point. So I'm a sales guy of sorts, so I like selling big fancy security technology, and I sell a lot of it. And a lot of times when I sell big fancy security technology, I'll go ask the customer, I'll say, what are you guys doing from a vulnerability management and a patch management program? And they're like, yeah, nah, it's all jacked up. And again, that kind of goes to the shiny thing, you know. Don't chase the next shiny thing. If you've got a good vulnerability management and a good patch management program, then you are going to protect yourself from 98% right there. And so I think a lot of us are chasing that, oh, what's the next new threat? What's the next exciting thing? But we're forgetting the basics. So I'll put you guys on the spot. I mean, from a vulnerability patch management, does anybody here say they have a mature process around that? What tools are you guys using, like, for vulnerability management?
Well, configuration management, SCCM.
Yeah. What are you doing for, like, non-Windows stuff and application stuff? No non-Windows stuff? Yeah, so don't forget the non-Windows stuff. Don't forget the applications. Don't forget the databases. So, you know, make sure that program, and that's I'm tying that back into my original point about having a framework and having the business buy off on the framework, because you know why most customers tell me that they can't patch their systems is because the business won't give them the downtime. They won't allow, they won't allow the patches. So that's why, if you've got that framework that says, this is what our SLAs are going to, hey man, I'm not that bad. You don't have to stab me with a knife over there. If you have that framework, if you've talked about it with the leadership, you can keep going. If you talk about it with the leadership, then when you say, hey, we've got a window, we've got a patch, this is what we're going to do it, it's already been agreed upon. So you can be secure at that point, you've got complete buy-in. This is probably, I put a star by it because if I had to rank all my solutions, I would probably say that this would be the most important one. So I'll put you guys on the spot here. How many of you guys have a mature or developing end-user education around security program? Yeah. So if you don't have that, that is a really, really good first step, because the theme of this is, hey, we're understaffed, we're outmanned. We got to get more people helping us, right? It can't just be IT's job. And the biggest problem in security is still stupid people clicking on things and looking at things that they shouldn't be clicking on and looking at. That's still problem number one, okay? You're never, as you guys know, right? You're never going to get rid of stupid people that look at things they shouldn't look at and click on things they shouldn't click on. But the better they get, it's proven that they can get better, and they do get better, then you're going to, limit your exposure there. And you can do that, there's third-party companies, obviously, we can help you. There's third-party companies that can do, email spoofing and user education and training, things of that nature. If you want to, if you have time, again, we know limited staff, these are things that you can develop yourself, some custom newsletters, things of that nature. I heard an analogy given one time. Anybody ever worked in manufacturing or been in manufacturing? Yeah. If you've ever been on a plant floor, when you go on a plant floor, all you see is, 21 days since we've had an accident. Stay safe. Everybody's got t-shirts that say safety on, posters all over the wall. It's all about safety, and that's brought upon by OSHA, but that's because, at one point in time, in the Industrial Revolution, we had all these accidents. It was a terrible thing, people getting hurt. Well, I think that going into the future, it's going to have to be that way because of this digital wave that we're in, this cyber warfare that we're in. We need to be that much in front of our end users to say, hey, we're in a battlefield right here. The same way you keep them safe on a plant floor, keep them safe in front of their computer. So train everyone. Don't reinvent the wheel. Leverage one another, obviously, and other people. I feel like a terrible sales guy or consultant, but a lot of times in meetings I'm like, well, just Google that and get that. Like I said, just Google the top 20 security controls. How many of you guys think you have a good base of security policies? If you don't have a framework, it might be more difficult, but companies pay us lots of money to write security policies for them. Go to University of Massachusetts, they got a good set of policies. Boston University does, they publish them. Borrow them from each other, you know. Don't make them too complex. If you've got, you know, a 90-page manual on policies, then you're gonna fail. You know, again, do it what's appropriate to you. Don't do security for security's sake. How many of you guys have a risk acceptance program? That's another thing. You can just Google risk, document. So when you're working with, you know, tax or, you know, PD or whoever you're working with, and they want you to build this thing or do this thing, you know, you've got some concerns about it, just build a risk acceptance program and take it to the manager of that department and say, hey, here's what you want us to do. You want us to do an online, you know, application here or that. You know, here's things that we need to do to secure that. Here's the risk involved with that. Will you please sign off on that? You know, that changes the attitude of a lot of people when you put together a risk acceptance program. But borrow those from each other. Never buy a security tool without training, maybe with professional services too. But I've been in sales since 1999, so 17 years now. It's always the first thing to go, right? I mean, you build a $500,000 proposal for somebody and they're like, oh, we only got $475,000. Well, the first thing to go is all the training, you know. And no matter what security tools from what vendor you use, the best security tool is a well-run and a well-implemented security tool. So if you're gonna invest in something, make sure that you train at least one person, maybe two if you have them, you know, and then teach each other internally. Get professional services if you can, you know, and do continuing education. Because I see so much software and hardware out there that's being utilized at about 20% of its capabilities. You know, we leverage the tools that we have more because we're better trained, then we need less of them, less complexity, less need for people. Consider moving key employees to security roles. So I've seen some folks do this, right? Like, you know, if you've been at your city, county, school for a long period of time, or you're a manager and you've got some good employees that aren't necessarily security folks, but they've been there a long time through the long haul, you know, either promote these people or move these people or volunteer yourself to move into a security role. It's not that, I mean, you can figure it out. It's changing all the time, nonstop anyway, right? So if you dive into it, you know, then you can get these good people because, you know, frankly, hiring security people is very, very challenging. You get them, keeping them around is very hard. So if you've got people that, you know, are invested in your organization, you know, move them. The other thing, frankly, is if you've got somebody who's a server admin or doing things of that nature, that skill set is much easier to find right now. So maybe instead of going out there and trying to find the security person, you know, cross-train some people, move them into different roles that you know are going to be there for a little while, and it might be easier to find, you know, the server guy or the desktop guy. Make sure that a tool is a force multiplier. So when you buy something, you know, make sure that you know that it is going to allow the human being, I mean, this is pretty much the definition of technology, but make sure that it's going to allow a human being to do their job more efficiently, not it's going to tie up a person's time and make, you know, it's going to create more work for them than the problem that it helps solve. There's a lot of tools out there. I mean, I see, you know, I'll pick on this. I mean, we actually sell a decent amount of this stuff, but I'll pick on like identity and access management. I don't know if you guys have any identity and access management tools, man, but I see people, especially, you know, if it's a smaller organization, they spend more time trying to fight with their identity and access management tools and get them implemented and everything right than they were ever spending, you know, bringing employees on and changing their roles and offboard them in other topics. Not to say identity and access management tools are bad. You know, it does a good thing from a security perspective, but if you can do it better manually, and you've got a good process to do it to make sure that you're not missing people when they're leaving the organization or changing their roles, just make sure that any tools that you buy help in that way. Leverage integrated tool sets. So, and demand this of your vendors that they will work with one another, you know, with open architectures. So we have a really strong partnership with, you know, IBM. We've got a really strong partnership with Cisco. You know, and that's one of their key messages as they start to acquire all these different security technologies is to say, you know, we're building an integrated architecture where we have these tools that, you know, do their function, but they also communicate with the other tools. So, you know, you have one person that can, you know, manage multiple platforms and get more visibility than they could before. How many of you guys have a SIM on site, like an on-site log collector SIM? Anybody has? Is anybody using a managed service for that? Or so, I mean, these tools, they can be very, very, very complex. But you know, companies like Splunk and companies like IBM with QRadar, they're starting to do things now where they're opening up the APIs on the devices where they can talk to the other systems in the environment. So it can give you that kind of dashboard where you can see multiple tools, you can see multiple things happening in your environment without a single person having to, you know, all right, let's look at the endpoint, let's look at the data access governance. You can build a simple set of tools. The other thing is too, to consider managed services. So I don't think you should do managed. Obviously, I don't think you can turn over the keys to your security program. There's not even any vendors that really do that. You're still gonna, you know, more than likely have to do your vulnerability and your patching. You know, you're still gonna have to, you know, do things like system access of that nature, manage endpoint security. But for that 24/7/365, if you want to have somebody watching your environment 24/7/365. Then, you know, maybe consider hiring a third-party firm to do that. Because it's very, very difficult, I mean, to staff that internally. And if you have a lot of these tools that need to be monitored 24/7/365, and you're not watching them, they're almost a waste of money. How many people, is any police departments or anybody that has a police department in their organization? They stop working at 5 o'clock, they work from 8 to 5 every day, right? Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, people talk about data security. It's really no different than physical security at the end of the day. I mean, I tell a story all the time. It's like, you know, think about it just like, think about data the same way you think about physical security. It's like in your own home, you know, I got my TV, I got it hanging on my wall. Why do I have my TV hanging on my wall? I don't really care that much about it. If somebody comes to my house and steals my TV, I mean, I'm going to be more upset that somebody was in my house than about my TV, because I probably want to buy a new TV anyway. My wife just won't let me. And I'm going to get a bigger, nicer one, and it's probably going to be cheaper than the last one I had. It costs less power, so it's like, that doesn't bother me, so I hang it on the wall. Well, what about my great-great-grandma's, you know, diamond ring that came over from Italy? I'm not going to hang that on my wall, right? I'm going to put that in a, you know, in a safe and inside the closet with towels over it and all. I mean, it's the same thing about finding out what data is important to you. I say the same thing from a physical security perspective. Like, we don't stop policing people. You know, we don't. You know, you go to a hospital, they don't. They've got security guards there, 24/7/365. All right, I'm wrapping up right now. I was going to kind of go through like the top 20 security controls, but I'm not going to do that. But again, just kind of look at them, and you can map. You know, you can map your processes, your procedures to each one of those if you don't have a government. So my commercial from Sirius perspective, you know, how can we help out with this stuff? So again, we have security consultants, IT consultants that work for our organization that can come in and help you find the framework that you need. If you have determined a framework, or after we help find one, if you need to do some gap analysis, things of that nature. So have somebody come in and say, all right, here's where you said you wanted to be, here's where you are, right? You said you needed policies around these things, you don't have these policies, we need to create these. You know, here's what you're doing. You know, you say you got a good vulnerability management program and patching program, but, you know, you're missing these certain things to help you in that regard. We do something called a security architecture review that I'll offer up to you guys, where we take some of these consultants, which is, these are guys that get paid, you know, billable resources that are normally doing services, but they'll come in and do a free architecture review where they'll, and I can show you all a sample of it if I can get this to work, but or send you one, let me know your contact information if you're interested. But they come down and they do this amazing whiteboard where they talk a little bit about process and procedure, but mainly about security controls that go all the way from the endpoint all the way to the database, and map out control areas where you have and where you might need an improvement, and give you a little report and show you what your gap analysis is. You know, help you find the right tools. So again, we're partners with, you know, we're partners with about 20 different security companies. Again, there's about 400 out there. We try to stay focused. You know, Cisco, Palo Alto, IBM Security, those are our big three. We have several more like Proof Point, Carbon Black, Rapid 7 to kind of round that out. But if you have a gap, if you need a tool, help you sell that, architect that. Obviously, I just said we won't sell it to you without training included, so I'll lose the deal if that happens. And then just be here for you guys, continue to have these conversations, continuous improvement in relationships. So that's it. I got you out of here before 5. You fell asleep on me. Look at there. 4:47. Questions? Good.